Hello and welcome everyone to the National Road Safety Partnership Program webinar, Understanding the Impact Road Users Have on Road Workers. My name is Jerome Carslake. I'm Director of the National Road Safety Partnership Program and its many activities. Next slide, please, Rose. Yep. And to find out more about us, please visit the NRSPP website, register for our newsletter, or follow us on social media, such as our LinkedIn page. So there I am, if you didn't know. I'm a little bit quiet compared to the other listeners. All right. Thanks, Stephen. I'll make myself louder now.
All right, maybe that's loud. Is that better?
Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa and Stephen. All right, so we're going to dive on in now. So today's session is going to go for approximately 60 minutes, and we'll be discussing any approaches, insights you'd like to share as well as we go through. So after this webinar, we'll be sending out a link tomorrow with a PDF and a link to the webinar. And you can hear back for those who've missed it. So as I touched on, I'm very keen to make this as interactive as possible. So what you can see is there's a question box and a chat box as well. Please feel free to throw any thoughts in there, just like Stephen did earlier, which is great. And we make it as interactive as we can go through. Now, my job as the lead today is quite easy because I have four different presenters working with us together in a bit of a panel discussion. So let's introduce them. Joining us, we have Matthew Barini. G'day, Matthew. Also joining us, so for those who don't know Matthew, he's Chief Executive of the Traffic Management Association of Australia, extensive industry and leadership experience in the public and private sectors in civil and transport engineering, such as ARB Group and the National Transport Commission. Joining Matthew, we have Nat. G'day, Nat.
Hey, how are you guys?
So Natalie is a psychologist and CEO, co-founder of Connect Psych Services, which is an innovative platform which supports employees and leaders at any time, anywhere, and provides actionable key insights to organisations as preventative and proactive measures towards workplace mental health. Natalie also works as a product innovation leader at Superfriend, who delivers a diagnostic mental health framework across 5 domains to provide national industry and workplace insights to help people thrive at work. And somehow you have to squeeze us into your busy schedule, Nat. Thank you.
Always, guys, always. Thanks for having me.
And I'm also super lucky to have Grace and Manal, who are NRSPP's Communication Design interns for 2023. They're both currently studying their 4th year of their Bachelor of Communication Design honours at Swinburne University of Technology. Welcome, Grace and Manal.
Thank you.
So super excited to have everyone on board. Let's begin diving on in. But as we begin moving over to Matthew, we're going to launch a little bit of a poll, just to have a bit of a discussion first of all, just to get what people's attitudes are to traffic controllers, and we'll then dive in, and Matt, you can begin talking about what you guys give us a bit of your thoughts. Over to you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jerome, and good morning, everyone. It's great to see we've got about nearly 50 people on the call today. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time. And as Jerome said, we wanted to be interactive, and we came up with a couple of simple questions. The first one is about your attitude toward traffic controllers and road workers, and it's just a bit of a vibe question, trying to pick up how you feel about road workers and traffic controllers, especially when they stop you on your journey to wherever you need to go. So on your screen, there's a window that should have popped up, and in that question, we're going to ask you whether you feel furious, frustrated, accepting, or appreciative. So please feel free to cast your vote now.
And we're nearly there. We're up around 40, 10 more people to go, and then we'll share.
I just found out that I'm not allowed to vote, actually, Jerome.
Yeah,
we have the same.
We can't have biasing it. So I'll close off in a couple of seconds. All right, I think that'll do now. All right, sharing now.
Oh, wow, look at that.
Oh, wow,
you guys are not a representative sample of the general population. You are accepting, appreciative.
That's great.
Well, it's not totally surprising. You're tuning in to listen to us about the impact of road users. So yeah, that does make sense. I wish that was the case for everyone on our roads, but yeah, maybe not. Okay, are we going for question 2 now or a bit later?
We'll go in a little bit later. So dive on in, Matt.
All right. Okay. Cool. I guess as a brief introduction for everyone, I'm sure that most of you on the call have heard of TMAA before. TMAA is the Traffic Management Association of Australia. We are the national and only peak body for traffic management in Australia. We have a very clear vision, which is a safe and zero harm traffic management industry across the country. We were established in 2011 as a national organization. We actually started a few years before that. It was the Traffic Management Association of Queensland, TMAQ, but we became a national body in 2011, so over 10 years now. We represent about 200,000 traffic management professionals in Australia, and it's an industry that is about $2 billion in market value, so it's a quite significant industry. Part of our actions, our key actions, are to promote safety and innovation, advocacy, and services to members. Yeah, we are very involved in road safety, and today's topic is very close to our heart. On that note, let's move on to the next slide, please. So I'd like to start by saying that I joined as the CEO of TMAA just over 5 months ago, but I'm a proud qualified traffic controller and TMI in Queensland. It's something that I did in my first 2 weeks in the job. I've been in transport for a long time, and in Australia since 2009, where I first met Jerome actually at the NTC. Even though I was in transport for a long time, traffic management is very much a niche part of the transport industry, and unless you've been exposed to it, it's really hard to grasp the challenges and what it is to be on the road every day. So I thought this would be a valuable experience. So that's me here on the right, holding the stop slow bat. And I've learned a lot during that experience and that time. But, I'm just one data point. That's what I've said before. It can be anecdotal, and to be able to actually form a better understanding of the challenges that are faced by traffic controllers on the road, we came up with the idea of a survey, a national survey, where we would talk to our members, and even non-members. Actually, it was open to a large segment of our industry, to try to understand, what it is to be a traffic controller. And at the time, when we did it, we thought it would be a useful learning for us. And then we realized that NRSPP was also very interested in that topic. So we put 2 and 2 together, and we decided to work with NRSPP to try to learn together and deliver the webinar today. So if we move on to the next slide, please. So as you saw on the previous picture, whether it's me or someone else, there is someone that is going to interrupt your journey, and which is why some people can feel frustrated about it. However, what you don't see behind the traffic controller, or you may just see some of it, is that there is some road work, usually happening on the road. It can be different types of work, obviously, but that one that you see on the screen here is what was going on behind me. And there was a digger here that was swinging pipes, 2 or 3 ton pipes, and shoring walls, big excavation on the road. And yes, as much as we understand that people do not like any disruption to their commute or journey, traffic controllers and road workers, they are very committed to road safety, and they're here to protect people. So they protect you from the danger that you don't see. And it is something that will come back in today's webinar. There is a lot going on behind the scene. They're not here to annoy anyone. They're actually here to protect you. And it's really something that is important to keep in mind. So on that note, let's move on to the next slide, please. So what you experience as a traffic controller, and I'm sure that will be shared by a few people on the call who work on traffic control. Very quickly, as you start managing traffic, you realize that you upset people. And while you guess that this may happen, it can be quite full on, and the confrontation can be quite shocking, to be honest. Interestingly, it's something that I've shared with the team before, but when I started to do the traffic control on the road. It took me 15 minutes to actually have my first incident being abused by a road user, which was very surprising. Never happened to me in the workplace before. So yeah, I was set aback a little bit when it happened. And then it keeps happening, every day, multiple times a day. And you can't actually pinpoint any particular profile of road user. It's a very indiscriminate kind of road rage. It's all ages, all genders, all backgrounds, white collars, blue collars, moms and dads, retired people. It is very broad, and it's actually a bit challenging, because if we could actually profile the people that are going to be more likely to actually have this kind of behavior, it would be easier for us to target those particular individuals or groups. But it doesn't work like that. It actually is it's really wide and broad in terms of people who do it. So that was an interesting learning for us. Let's go to the next slide, please. So going back to now the data collection and the survey, we started the National Traffic Controller Safety Survey in March 23. The survey was open for about 6 weeks. It is a national survey because we've decided to do it every year. And we received nearly 200 responses, which was surprising. We didn't expect that. In fairness, there were some prices up for grab, $200 gift cards. So we believe this was a good incentive to get people to spend their time with us. And the topic was very clearly to understand the perceived risk profile in the workplace. So we appreciate that this is about perception. How do you feel in your workplace as a traffic controller? We had some quantitative and qualitative questions as well. And we were very open about the fact that this data was going to be shared. It was not just going to be for us. We shared it with NRSPP. We shared it with the different road agencies in Queensland and Victoria, for instance. So, there is no IP in that space. It's about sharing the learning so that we can all improve together. And as I said before, it's a yearly survey. So we have a useful baseline for us as an association to understand the impact of our work. And hopefully the survey next year will show some improvements. Let's have a look at the next slide, please. Right, so I think this is where question 2 is going to now pop up on your screen. So that's a bit of a break in the webinar. And it's a very simple question. In your workplace, how safe do you usually feel? From 0 to 5. So please have a vote, so think about it. You wake up at work in the morning. Are you toward a 0 or toward a 5? I'm sure that we are going to see the results very soon.
I'll give another 5 seconds. All right, I'm about to launch now. We've covered off 80% of our participants. There you go.
Very good, very good. Right, so we don't have the average on the screen, but I'm sure you would agree, looking at the results here, that we are sitting probably around the above 4 mark. So we do have a majority of 4 or 5 here. We do have some 0 to 3 as well, and that is not totally surprising. I know on the call we have, looking at the list, I recognize some names. We do have people that are doing traffic control here. So look, if you are a white collar, I've got the white collar today, working in an office like Jerome, you probably would select 5. And that's what I would have always selected 5 in the last 15 years of workplaces that I attended in the morning. If you're a traffic controller or a road worker, it's a very different outcome. So we might have a look at the next slide now. And on this next slide, what you can see is that on a scale, now it's a scale from 0 to 10, not quite the 0 to 5 you just used, but on a scale from 0 to 10, it was just above 6. And so, yes, we do have some 7 and 8, 9 and 10 in there, but you can see that it's not quite, the bell curve here. But yeah, we do have a really large number of respondents that actually selected, 4, 5, and 6 in there. And it is a quite confronting result. We're talking about human beings going to work in the morning, and in their workplace, on average, they're feeling like they're sitting at about 6 on average, which is unusual. And there aren't many jobs in Australia where you would get these kind of results. Like I can imagine if you're like a mining engineer, doing work on the ground, you would probably feel, pretty low on that scale as well. But for a lot of us, we would be sitting at 9 or 10. And that was, the kind of result we found in the survey with you today. So it is a real issue in terms of risk perception, in the workplace. And people feel that way. And Natalie will touch on that later on, but, there are good reasons for that. So let's just move on to the next slide to just do a bit of a deeper dive in terms of what it is and to introduce you to our respondents as well. We've got some high-level statistics about the 200 people that took the survey here. And that actually gives you a bit of an insight into what the traffic management industry looks like, and the workforce in particular. So interestingly, a lot of people are middle-aged, in that 41 to 60 category. Please don't say that you're old if you're less than 60, all right? I just turned 40, so we are middle-aged, right? That's what it is. Then in terms of age, again, it is quite representative of our industry. And if you don't know about it, it's a very gender-balanced industry. We've got about 60-40 in terms of split, so a very good level of female representation in traffic management. So we're doing quite well in that respect. In terms of occupation, so we do have a good split here. We've got from traffic control level 1 and 2, we've got some traffic control team leaders, TMA driver and other. Now, if you're across, the changes in terms of the way we refer to the traffic control industry, we've got level 1 and level 2. That's your traffic controller, and then you've got your TMI, traffic management implementation as well. We've got TMD, traffic management designer. So we do have a range of occupation in our industry. But yeah, overall, it's really good to see that we had that split. Now, in terms of how long you've been in the job for, well, look, it's interesting. 1 to 5 and 6 to 10 represent about 75%. So yeah, it's quite common for people to be in traffic management for quite some time. It's not something that people do for a couple of weeks and move on. It does happen like everywhere as well, but overall, we have people that are in industry for the long run, and they know what they're talking about, which is good. Then company size, well, very good too. We had a large number of people that are in medium to large companies, so anywhere above 20 employees. And then location, it was totally like expected. It's representative of the Australian population. So we do have larger groups from Victoria, Queensland, and New South Wales as well. No one from the ACT in that sample, but yeah, look, it does make sense. So that's kind of the people that do the survey. So let's have a look now at the driver behaviors, and that's what people reported in terms of challenges that they face. And this one is quite yeah, it's a bit shocking. But if you look at the first graph, question 2, driver refusing to stop when instructed. This happens all the time, and we've got the data to prove it. Like once a month, once a week, multiple times a week. Also, a good level of response here. So, yeah, people do not stop when we are asking us to stop, which is crazy, because that's pretty much the job of the traffic controller is to stop traffic to make sure that people are safe, and people don't do it. It does happen all the time. And then the next graph, question 3, not only people don't stop, which is dangerous, but they actually have a go at people. There is verbal assault, and that happens all the time. So I hope it's starting to make sense, in terms of why people don't feel safe. They actually, they are on the receiving end of verbal abuse. Now, question 4, physical assault. This one is very rare, thankfully. It does happen from time to time. These are incidents that are reported, but yeah, thankfully, it is very unusual. But then, moving on to question 5 and 6, in terms of, what happens, well, people are distracted, which is, that could be why they don't stop. And this happens regularly as well. And the other big issue in our industry is speeding. We have traffic controllers that are regularly struck or nearly struck by speeding vehicles. And again, you've got the data on the screen here. It does happen regularly. So these are some real issues and challenges that we are working on together and try to change. Let's have a look at the next slide, please. So we had, as I said before, we had a more qualitative part of the survey, which was, tell us more about, what's going on the ground, what could change, how we could make it better, communication campaigns. And so we looked at the data set, and, it was like a really large data set. And the team at NRSPP actually helped us go through some of the feedback. But yeah, in terms of the unsafe situation, when people actually took the time to write some words about it, they did complain about the aggressive and non-compliant behaviors. And then again, distracted drivers, especially people on their mobile phones that just miss the fact that there is someone on the road. And yeah, it's surprising that this happens nowadays still, but it does. And then we have speeding drivers. So that's, like the top 3 for us. We do have additional things like traffic controller visibility, understaffing, drivers not understanding the signs, so we do have some additional feedback here, which we are also looking into. And then, moving on to the next one, which was, well, we've got this feedback now. Sorry, just going back to the previous slide. About the feedback, we actually asked people, what would you do in terms of safety campaign if you were involved? And so they really emphasize the need to communicate on obeying roadwork speed limits. Speed limits in roadworks, I hope this is not going to surprise anyone, but they are not optional. They are a real thing. They're not here to look pretty. They are enforceable, and everyone needs to comply with reduced speed limits near roadworks. And I'm not convinced that everyone actually understands that. I've spoken to people that I know, friends, contacts, and there are definitely people that believe that they are advisory only and not mandatory. So it's something for us to work on. On the right side, just quickly, you got a bit of a snapshot in terms of communication campaigns internationally in Northern America, Canada, Italy. We just put that on the screen to like communicate the fact that this is a global issue. It's not it's not just an Australian or New Zealand challenge. It is something that occurs across the globe. And there are some interesting messages out there that we should be looking into and try to adapt to the Australian context. But yeah, it's something that is actually across the board in terms of location. Right, okay, let's, I think I'm coming to the end of my preso, and I don't want to take all of the time, but in terms of key learnings, driver behaviors, well, they do have a real impact on road workers. Your behavior is going to make someone safe or unsafe in their workplace. So keep that in mind, please. Respect traffic controllers, they're here to protect you. And then the last 2 is slow down near roadworks and focus on your driving. Of course, no mobile phone, but look at what is ahead of you and make sure you spot the danger when you drive. So I think that's it for my slides, Grace.
That's awesome. Thank you for that, Matthew. I think one of the things I sort of love drawing on that, especially those key learnings, is once again, road safety is a shared responsibility. So we all have a role to keep everyone safe. And in our discussions, one of the points you made is when you nodded and you smiled and you gave a wave to one of the traffic controllers and said, "Well done," and the person was stunned. So, question here through from Anonymous. Will the TMAA, via this movement with the NRSPP, be looking to engage with road authorities to ensure highest levels of hierarchy controls are enabled as the first choice? There's a whole lot of other detail in there. It's a big question, Matthew. From our NRSPP, we're always happy to help and support. TMA has always been a strong partner of our program, and we're happy to do whatever's possible to get the message out. So that's where we sort of sit. What's your thoughts, Matt?
Yeah, well, look, in terms of, I guess, working together, obviously working with NRSPP, road agencies as well. I mean, we do have examples of in Queensland and Victoria in particular, WA as well. We've got partners in the different states that are very committed to improving road safety. We had this massive event in WA recently with my colleague Steve, who is on the call, where we had the National Road Safety Commissioner. And clearly, you talk to the different stakeholders, and they are very keen to work together and to get input from the industry through TMWA. I mean, we are the only big body here. So, but that said, we talk to people that are not members of the association as well. As I said before, it's we are all in this together. So, we've done that in the past, and we will not stop doing it. Like the only way you can make a tangible difference is to work together. And the road agencies, the state road agencies in particular, they manage a large part of the network, and they support local councils as well. So through our work with the states, we know that this is going to actually cascade down to the local council level as well. And look, we also work with local council associations to make sure that the messaging goes through to them. So I hope that answers the question. But yeah, the only way forward is to work together.
One last sort of quick question before we move on to Natalie. From Robert, has consideration been given to any correlation between the respect shown to road workers at sites and the standard of TTM at the sites? For example, if the TTM on the site is really good, are there better levels of respect shown to road workers? That's a great question.
Well, look, Robert, I'm afraid in the questionnaire, there was no question along the line of, are you a good TTM? Which would have, that would have allowed us to actually draw some kind of correlation. So look, it is quite possible that when traffic management is not done the right way, that the level of respect and compliance observed on the road might be lower. It makes sense. What I'd say to Robert and everyone on the call is that the standard of traffic management practice is lifting. It's lifting because industry cares about the safety of their workers. We appreciate the benefits of doing the job properly because we know that our workers will be safer. And also on top of that, government is working with industry to harmonize traffic management practice. So in case you haven't heard about it, there's a big project going on right now that started about 2 or 3 years ago, which is called the National Harmonization of Traffic Management Practice. And it is actually looking at best practice around the states, trying to agree on a common denominator that is actually above the current practice to make sure that there is consistency in terms of what you can expect on the road. So what it means is that, even though it's already happening nowadays, but even more so tomorrow, when you arrive near a roadwork site, wherever you are in the country, you can expect to actually face the same kind of road signs and practice and the positioning of the cone and the taper lane and all of that. When there is that consistency, whether you realize it or not, you actually behave differently because, well, it's already built in your brain. You know what to expect.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, you can expect a higher level of safety for everyone on the road. So I would like to believe that over time, people that do not do TTM as well, or that kind of behavior and situation will disappear, and we are all going to lift the industry to a higher level of standard.
Great answer. I must admit, what a perfect segue to go over to you, Natalie, now. I think when you hear about that consistency, creating expectations with people, who would have thought? I mean, that's great. So over to you, Natalie.
That's definitely music to my ear with you. But look, it's just probably really important that just to really highlight or to segue into what you were talking about, the WHS and the new changes of legislation, and for traffic managers to be completely involved in this, because the workplace is so safe, and not only the perceptions of an unsafe workplace, but it is really a threatening situation when you're seeing the drivers behave in certain ways, especially around the distraction and the aggression. And just something, I suppose even for us to highlight and to be really aware of is that the ongoing trauma and the anxiety and the stress that we can then see in these traffic controllers. I know that some, the sector of your your study as well, Matthew, really highlighted those middle-aged individuals, and the tenure of the job is quite long. But we also want to be able to be bringing and attracting more workers into this very important industry to keep our roads safe, to keep us travelling from A to B, and to keep the transport industry alive. So transport and construction really do go hand in hand there. We see a lot of anxiety, we see a lot of stress, and we see a lot of trauma. And in the construction industry as a whole, we know that they actually have the highest amount of suicide rates. Now, I know this is a niche market, but we are looking at a workplace environment that is also it's also very flexible, and it's quite kinesthetic. So when you're working on a site for one section, you might have that site office, but then you might be then moving into another area, a week, a month down the track as well, depending upon where the jobs are. So having those I suppose that flexible work design, that can cause a lot of stress and anxiety. So absolutely music to my ears that we're creating this predictable behaviour for our drivers, because that's going to then create that predictable behaviour for the workers too. But what we do see is it is more so of that male dominant industry. And when there is the outlets where there isn't that predictable area for potential support all the time, you've not only got the traffic conditions that can change, but the weather conditions can change, the types of projects can change also. We can see that this also can be part of fueling that anxiety along with that stress. More often than not, we do see addiction can rise in these areas, ways of escapism, ways of being able to get up and go to the job the next day, that we can then see that there are some levels of dysfunctional more behaviour to be able to cope in certain working environments. Probably the most concerning area is that level of presenteeism. And when we actually have that element of stress in going to the work, into the work arena and into our work environment, when we're entering a workplace, with our stress markers right up there, and our adrenal responses ready for that fight or flight, because we don't know what's going to happen today, or who's going to be going past, or is there going to be another distracted driver, or am I going to be copying abuse or aggression? What we're going to see is that the decision making in certain workers can be compromised there, and that can also cause huge problems in road accidents and other injuries as well. So this is where stress is really important to address in road in traffic controllers too, just because of that presenteeism and I suppose the higher probability where you are more likely to make a mistake, and that's not their fault as well. And most of all, we don't want to see, an exit of the industry. This is such an important role to be playing on our roads, and we need to respect that a lot more and do a lot of work more so around that driver empathy. So it's just a snapshot into that reaction and the consequences of what you're seeing on the road, Matthew, by way of your data and statistics, and then the mental health, I suppose, deficits that we can see from that employee. Australia is working really hard on trying to create thriving workplaces and thriving industries, just to be able to keep everyone healthy, safe, and happy for as long as they are working and in their working, dare I say, in their working lives. So traffic management, to come into such a niche market, it's also important to really highlight that. Thanks, girls. I'll go to the next slide. So what can we then do to create that real safe place for our workers? And I've been working with the beautiful girls here for a few months on really trying to create and talk about the campaigns that they've launched. But looking at work design and safety is such an important area. SuperFriend, what we do by way of our data analyses across industries is that these are two of our domains, which really highlight the importance of a thriving workplace. So looking at those levels of work designs, like where is if I do need mental health support, where can I get it, and is it accessible? My other role, is that Jerome stated at the start of this webinar, is I am CEO of Connect Psych Services. So we created an employee assistance program, which essentially I built for the male dominant industries that are a little bit more flexible, mining, transport, construction, to be able to provide accessible, autonomous and flexible support anytime, anywhere on a health tech platform. So essentially it's e-counselling for when and where employees need it most, and in a time and place they need it most. So having that accessible mental health support is very important to industries that also have a work design that isn't predictable. We don't come into the same office every single day, unlike a white collar. Peer support, mates in construction do such a fabulous job in creating this, and being able to create understanding for people to understand the signs and symptoms of when themselves might be going downhill, where potentially using some dysfunctional behaviour to be able to cope with the day, or feeling quite agitated with friends and family. These could also just be little highlights that something might be really, I suppose, discombobulating them under the surface there, and understanding that, and then knowing what to do and where to go for support. And that's also for your colleagues around you. So having that element of control and having that safe sanctuary that can be still quite anonymous. We know that we do a lot of work around the stigma of men's mental health, and especially in June now for Men's Mental Health Month. It's a really important concept to highlight that we continually have to work on, that there is no weakness here, and there is a lot of external or extraneous variables here that are at play that can cause us to feel the way we're feeling. And at the end of the day, we are all human. And that's something that we've been looking at talking about with the driver empathy, and how to be able to encourage drivers to slow down. And this is, I just saw one of your from the international slogans and signs, Matthew, about this is my mum and dad work here. What if this was at one of your sons working on here, or one of your daughters? What if this is how would you feel if someone threw a bottle of urine at your son? Or how would you feel if someone was incredibly aggressive and abusive towards your daughter, or your father, or your uncle, or your family member there? And so being able to start to, incorporate, I suppose, more of those interrogative styles of thinking and questioning with our drivers around those campaigns can be very important to really get drivers to think about, well, what are they doing? And, is it only it might be 2 minutes, 3 minutes of your day that is actually affected. So why the ripple effect of aggression? So it is something that it's great that we're aware of, but it's a continual intervention of this area. Any questions there on the mental health areas?
No, at the moment, all good. But if you want to add some earlier, it's fantastic. And I wonder, one of our key thoughts we were trying to highlight going through this was just getting people to understand that, to Matthew's point, if people get abused every day, what's it going to do to you? It's not going to be positive, is it? And that's where you need to make sure the support services, and an even better way would be to go about and say, well, if we're going to, how do we stop people getting abusing to start? Because it's like, I guess one of the analogies, you see these people flying along on the highway and they're cutting through all the traffic and this sort of stuff to try and get foot, and then they get to and they're at the front again and you pull up next to them. Same sort of thing. Why could we not, people get out there with the road traffic controllers and interact with them and sort of go, look, it's the same sort of thing. If everyone's moving about a lot easier and smoother on the road, it's a win-win for everyone all around. But we've got some great questions. There's a question here from Carly. We'll hold through some of these ones to the end. Got a great one from Manoj. I hope I got your name correct. And a few others. So I'll hold these through to the end. And there's some psychology ones as well. I'd love to throw them at Natalie because you can just hear her passion. But let's now hear about how we've gone about engaging and drawing Grace now, so they can really touch on the key components of the campaign that's built on what Matthew's gone through, the mentoring guidance that Natalie's provided. So you can sort of see how they arrived and went through their journey and all the multiple stakeholders there. Over to you guys.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Manal.
And I'm Grace.
And so we're going to go through our campaign on how we approached this issue. So we'll go through those.
So just a little overview. We'll go through our strategy, the process, our research findings, and the final outcomes.
So the strategy. So why traffic controllers? So as Machi and Natalie said, and like the statistics have shown, that traffic controllers are the first point of contact with road users on the road, which leads them to cop more abuse. Traffic controllers are the unforgettable, vulnerable road users, which is why we wanted to bring this issue to light.
So the issues, so traffic controllers receive verbal and physical abuse whilst doing their jobs, as highlighted by Machi's survey, and this just doesn't happen in regular workplaces.
So the purpose, so as like the statistics have shown, that we wanted to humanize traffic controllers to encourage road users' empathy to promote safe interactions. We wanted to minimize abuse directed at traffic controllers, as they are just here to make the road safer. So the whole idea was just like what Natalie said, like these people, they're human, they're doing their jobs. And, you know, what if that was a family member? Would you let them, like, would you abuse them on the roads?
So our process. So we involved a lot of partners and stakeholders over the creation process of the campaign, because road safety is a shared responsibility.
The industry partners. So these are the people that were involved and that really helped us put the campaign together. We did interview Altus Traffic and Fulton Hogan, traffic controllers, and a department manager from Fulton Hogan that helped us share the experiences as well. And then these are the stakeholders as well that were involved.
So our research findings. So some of our key findings included that 54% of road workers receive verbal or physical abuse from a member of the public while working.
So drivers believe that they are taking caution and slowing down enough when passing roadworks, but in reality, 49.4% exceed the temporary speed limit by 20 kilometres per hour or more.
30% of surveyed construction workers reported that they had suicidal thoughts in the last 12 months.
On regional roads, nearly half of vehicles exceed the temporary speed limit by 20 kilometres per hour or more, which is also what Machi said earlier, that traffic controllers are here to manage the roads, but it's just so like no one follows the rules. They all end up speeding.
People aren't stopping and they're speeding. Yeah, so the topics that we covered in our campaign fact sheets is what is a traffic controller, drivers disobey speed limits at roadworks, road abuse traffic controllers face, how road abuse can affect a traffic controller's mental health, the dangers of roadwork zones, tips for road users to manage emotions and plan around roadworks, respect traffic controllers on regional roads, and how traffic controllers can reduce dangers on regional roads.
So our final outcome. So we created 10 posters that we rolled out in the course of 2 weeks. So each poster, it shares the experiences. So we did interview all these traffic controllers and they shared all their experiences. So as you can see, like some of them have said that they've had stuff thrown at them, people have been swearing at them and abusing them, and people don't follow the rules, they fail to stop. And the one that was very interesting was that people are on their mobile phones while driving, which is really insane because you're not meant to be on your phone when you're driving. So yeah, we use the posters to humanize the traffic controllers so the public can see that they are just humans doing their jobs.
I think some of our key quotes that kind of aligned with what Natalie was saying was, yeah, how would you treat a traffic controller if they were your family? And would you cop abuse at your workplace? Why should we? With obviously the traffic controllers front and center in our posters. And then these were the fact sheets that I just listed off. So lots of graphics to kind of make them engaging and some pull-out quotes, pull-out stats. So it's just, you know, really easy and simple for people to grab the information that they were looking for.
These are the social media posts. So they're the same as the posters. And we really just pushed out the messaging like traffic controllers don't deserve to be abused, because just because they're not in the typical workplace, it doesn't mean it's okay to just yell at them and throw bottles at them as well.
So these were the interview videos that we created. So we were actually going to show one today, and I did tick the sound share button, so we should be good to go.
because we do the setup and pack up, we see everything pretty much. You know, holes in the ground, you know, live wires, you know, hanging down, you know, things that the drivers will not be able to see on approach. And yeah, we have to make them aware of all the hazards and risks involved somehow.
It happens daily. We cop abuse on the freeways and the highways and the side streets, and people throw stuff. They knock over our bollards and cones intentionally, deliberately speed through our controlled areas, putting our guys at risk.
Yeah, for sure, because you get people speeding through your work zone, failing to give way, failing to stop, dangerous. You can see them obviously not paying attention. They're using their mobile phones or, you know, swerving all over the road, whether that's because of intoxication, you're just not sure. But it's always, yeah, definitely sort of worrying as you don't know what they're doing behind the wheel.
I would like for more people to understand that when roads are closed, they're closed. We can't send people through no matter what, really. But unfortunately, some people just don't get it. So.
Yeah, I've had stuff thrown on me from cars. I've had food, drink. I've had people swearing, abuse, a lot of abuse over the years. And you got to take it, you know, with a grain of salt. Because people don't know you personally. They're just having a terrible day and they want to vent and project their insecurity on others.
I think there just needs to be a bit more awareness between the public and people on the roads, because at the end of the day, we all want to go home at the end of the day, and we understand you guys might be in a rush, but yeah, I think the main goal is for everyone just to get home safe, including the drivers and especially us out on the road that are standing out there, so yeah.
So apologies for a bit of buffering there, but it is on the NRSPP YouTube channel if you'd like to watch the video again, or if you'd like to watch any of our other videos we have here. So that one highlighted quite a few traffic controllers experiences, but we have 3 full interviews with different traffic controllers and one with a department manager.
And then we also created some short videos from Sarah, Mason and Paul, which is also on our YouTube and the NRSPP website as well.
So this was the facilitator guide that we made. So kind of the goal of this guide was if people are wanting to run sessions within their organizations, we have a timeline that kind of highlights how you can use things within our pack and use all these resources, and how you could kind of have these sessions with your employees. So we have discussion prompts there as well. So they're kind of guided questions that just kind of make people think about the issue in a different way that they might not have thought about it. Yeah, a little overview, how to use the resources, and then a pre-survey and a post-survey, which, yeah, you can give it to your employees before the sessions and after the sessions to kind of see how their attitudes might have changed.
And then we created a promotion guide. So we feel free to send this to anyone. It's also on our NRSPP website. So the point of the guide was to show how to use our social posts and the videos and how to promote them. So the captions are all provided as well, just because we feel like it's a shared responsibility, and it's important that everyone like shares this campaign and the message that traffic controllers are just doing their jobs and they're human.
So the campaign success. So we launched the campaign from May 14th to May 26th. So that started in the National Road Safety Week, and then we did the week after as well. So we had a total of 16 posts.
So these are the analytics for the 2 weeks. It was everyone engaged with the post. We reached 10,000 impressions on LinkedIn, and we got around 1,000 video views. And it was just, yeah, it was interesting to see, like, over the 2 weeks that we just launched the campaign, that a lot of people, even we had traffic controllers commenting on it and telling us their experiences, and like they felt heard that we are showing their view to the public. So it was like really, we were very proud with the analytics.
And the post that did the best was, yeah, you can't see the danger I see. So that really seemed to resonate with partners and traffic controllers and just kind of everyone on LinkedIn. It reached about 1,700 people, 130 likes and 18 reposts, which was a lot for our LinkedIn. So that was really great to see all that engagement with this important message.
Yeah, so where you can find the campaign. So it's on the NRSPP socials and website. So if you go on our website, there's a tab that says campaigns, and under there, there's another tab that says respect traffic controllers. And then it links you to the pack. So it has all the things that you would need. The posters, the videos, the felicitator guide, the promotion guide as well.
Yeah, that's kind of our presentation, and we hope you all enjoyed learning a bit about our campaign. And yeah, feel free to download it.
I think, yeah, so if anyone has any questions about
Great job, Grace and Manel. I think you can sort of see the theme and how it's sort of flowing through now. So, and we've got a whole lot of stuff in the chat. I've been grabbing some into Word so I can go through them as well. So, and I really need to sing out the process you've gone through, the thinking, the creativity, and I'll go sing the praise to Matthew and to Nat for helping guide that and providing us the avenue to build it out as well. So, so just diving into some questions now, and this one's maybe a bit more of a comment from Stephen. Traffic controllers stress from lack of response to the perceived issues, lack of enforcement, safety issues ignored, human factors. Fatigue must play a big role for the people out on the road dealing with that, but then also the conditions and tiredness. So Matthew, what's your thoughts? What sort of role does fatigue play around impacting the risk for the road traffic controllers?
I think it's an excellent point. When you do the traffic management training, any kind of training, you're told about, having a safe escape route and also to report issues, that you face on the road. But it gets to a point where the issues happen so often that there is, some kind of fatigue, and you're like, well, I'm not going to report an incident because I would spend my day doing that. And as a traffic controller, your job is, you don't think that your job is to do the paperwork, right? And I guess even worse than that is if you lose confidence that this is not going to result in any kind of change, you stop doing it. So there is definitely an issue around fatigue and getting used to the bad behaviors, and as a result of that, you accept the bad behaviors. And so I think, I don't have enough experience in traffic management myself to speak from a place of knowledge, but I believe and I hope that when serious incidents happen, like near misses, that they are actually reported, and typically the police would get involved. For the minor incidents, what I notice is that there is probably an acceptance, that takes place, and people actually just forget about it and move on. So the work that NRSPP is doing, I think it does emphasize the fact that it's more than just an incident on the road. It actually takes a toll on your mental health. And I hope this work is actually going to push people into reporting the issues and speaking up about the fatigue and the fact that they are dealing with real challenges on the road. So at the end of the day, I think the best way moving forward is to work on that education piece and communicate clearly with everyone so that they do understand that they can be active and not just accept what they see on the road every day.
Thanks for that, Matthew. So Natalie, I think that's a great point just drawing on there, the fatigue. And there's even Rachel made the comment going, a really relevant subject, not often considered around the mental health impacts of road workers. You're just on mute.
I'm not usually on mute, am I, Jerome? So look, it is something that we don't consider, and mental health, it really is, we're going through that silent pandemic now, and we're seeing such the real consequence of even COVID and how everything has started to kind of come down and settle, and it's coming into BAU, and what we try and highlight at Super Friend is just really that, just to make sure that each industry is really safe moving forward into this dare I say this new way of working for many people, but it's also it's also about it's also about the employees, and it's also about the humans, and we can't overlook that. And we focus so much with the work health and safety on the physical injuries, but mental injuries are really starting to very quickly overtake those physical injuries, and traffic controllers can be right at the front line of that, and we see this in the construction industry. So this is this high risk industries is what we really want to be focusing on to make sure that there is the safety parameters around that, but there's also the accessibility, and really breaking down not so much that stigma anymore. It's more about trying to create these actionable insights and what can we do. So we work very closely with many workplaces and many injuries to make something, like mental health, really looking at good well-being and how important that is, just for not only the body but also our social relationships, also our identity, and everyone should be made to feel safe and to feel good and to feel confident and resilient when they walk into their workplace, because we're in a workplace for a really long time, aren't we? And we really want to make the most of that, and we want that to be part of who we are, and really to be proud of it. So yeah, it's something we do a lot of. We're really passionate about. I'm really passionate about, and it's not a rude word, mental health. It's all about good well-being, makes us better employees and better workplaces.
And we've got some fantastic comments and everything in the chat. So great, now many have come through and said fantastic work, good job. I love what James is adding here as well.
Yeah,
Sorry.
We couldn't have done it without everyone that was involved. It was just amazing to see how many people supported us and helped bring the issue to light, because there isn't really many campaigns about traffic controllers. Even when we're doing research, we didn't really find much, so we had to use some of TMAA's their surveys and do some of our own. So it's just we wouldn't have done it without everyone's help.
Yeah, definitely.
So grateful.
And I think the choice, the people we have in your videos, fantastic natural champions. And there's a point raised earlier in the chat around giving them stronger voices for management and speaking up. And because I think it puts a face, it humanises them straight away so people see them. But what I took back from it was also, they mentioned how they put up with these things day in, day out. How many other people, if they put in a service job, or if they copped abuse, they'd throw the towel in and walk away, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Interesting, James. I saw your comments responding to James, Matthew, around engaging school children, those sort of components around traffic control may benefit from similar school-based presentations, engaging those and empowering young kids. Because I must admit, when we were going through this, we were very clear we don't refer to as lollipops and those sort of components, because that's the ones that sit around schools. But maybe there is, like you're saying, empowering the kids to understand their role as a chance when they see a traffic controller, there's that natural link.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we are getting some comments and questions around the education piece, just one from Cindy Lee here. And it's about, the age and the location as well. And they are spot on, your questions are great. And I'm happy to share that, we are thinking about it. We are working on those issues, and just talking about TMAA in particular, we want to be more involved and more proactive in that education effort. And it's not just face-to-face, as we saw, you can produce some very powerful online content. So we want to be more involved in that space to raise awareness, and also to give and share some practical tips and tools and reminders for even staff. You do your traffic management training, which is great. Look, I'm sure on the call there will be people here that have done the CPR training, right? The CPR training is something you're supposed to do on a regular basis. I've done it a few times. I can tell you, every time I do it again, it reminds me of the stuff that I forgot. And it's valid for everyone. Yes, you've done your traffic management training a year or two ago, but having access to training material and just refresher is always useful. So we want to do more of that to reduce the risk of having the inappropriate behavior on the roadside. And again, it's NRSPP and different states around Australia, the association, but we are all involved and committed to it. So I think we've got access to great tools nowadays, whether it's Zoom, Teams, or whatever. trading platforms. We need to leverage that technology to be able to make a difference on the ground.
Kylie's made a point in here, and she's got a campaign for slowing around amber flashing lights. So you've got one for the next one to build on. And just one other thought, which I'll just throw out as we're sort of coming up to the end now, is when I was reading through some of the Facebook comments from people, there was people talking around, I guess, radio personalities and those sort of ones getting out and condemning and bad-mouthing road controllers, and it's an issue. And one of the thoughts, and I've spoken to Matthew about this, is look, we're doing a truck ride-along project, which we're kicking on to get people in similar positions to understand and see through the eyes of a truck driver. I think it could be a perfect opportunity to invite some of those people who are naysayers to go out and actually see through the eyes and meet these people in the videos and stand on the line and see what they put up with day in, day out, and understand the why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's some great things. So thank you very much for your time today as we come up to the end of today's webinar. Thank you very much to Matthew.
Thank you very much, Jerome.
Thank you very much, Natalie.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Grace.
Thank you.
Thanks,
And thank you,
everyone.
now. Absolutely awesome to have everyone. And thank you everyone in our audience today for joining us. This is always a highlight each year, having our a campaign that we release and then talking through and doing it and showing the collaborative journey behind it all. So thank you very much for your time. And this will be shared tomorrow in 24 hours. So you'll have a link to the PowerPoint and to the webinar. Thank you for joining us.